Hello, and we're going to continue the journey through time, a story about Geronimo Stilton and his adventures. So now you remember that they got back into the time machine and they skipped off to Egypt, I think it is. So let's find out the adventures in Egypt. I plugged my ears, gritted my teeth, and closed my eyes. Bang! The Mouse Mover 3000 stopped moving. I perked up my ears, and I didn't hear anything. I leaned over and very slowly opened the portal. Wow! Professor Von Volt shouted. Wow! I shouted. Wow! Thea shouted. Benjamin shouted, "Sweet!" Trap shouted. The Egyptian desert stretched for miles and miles in every direction around us. It was a sea of golden sand as fine as powder, gently shaped into softly angled dunes. The rising sun tinged the pyramids and the Sphinx with a rosy hue.
"Look!"
Benjamin exclaimed in amazement.
"The pyramids are white and have golden tips."
"And the Sphinx is painted in different colors," said Professor Von Volt. I made a note in my travel journal. It is 1280 BC at 5:47 a.m. We're in Giza, in the middle of the Egyptian desert. The professor rummaged into his pockets and took out some teeny tiny clothes. "This is what will wear while we're in Egypt," he told us. "I put these clothes through a special miniaturization process before we left." He took from his pocket a little test tube full of transparent liquid and used an eyedropper to splash one drop of the strange substance on the little piece of clothing. The tiny dress grew into a pleated linen dress, complete with a wig. The professor gave it to Thea, along with a small gilded wooden box. In it were expensive perfumes and alabaster vases filled with Egyptian makeup. After we dressed, Thea put eye makeup on, all of us. Now we really look like ancient Egyptians. I noticed Trap put something in his bag. It looked like a little black fabric pouch. "Oh!" the professor exclaimed suddenly, slapping his forehead. "I almost forgot." He took out a tiny earpiece. "This is the Squeak Speak, a special translator I invented," he told us. "It can translate everything you hear and all that you say." Trap popped a Squeak Speak in his ear. "It doesn't work," he said. "I don't eat anything." "Of course you don't," Professor Von Volt replied with a sigh. "You have to turn it on first." Trap turned on the device. "1, 2, 3, testing," he squeaked loudly. "Geronimo, do you hear me?" "Shh!" Thea shushed Trap. "Listen!" From far away I heard mice chanting. "Oh, days are long, our work is tough, building temples is really rough. We'll keep working till the day is done, to honor Ra, God of the sun. We are proud and we are strong, we'll work for Ma all day long." It was a group of laborers going to work. "Unbelievable," I whispered in amazement. "I can understand ancient Egyptian." "What's Ma'at, Professor?" Benjamin asked. "Ma'at is a divine order," Professor Von Volt replied. According to the ancient Egyptians, the whole world follows a law of universal order and balance, and Ra is the sun god of the Egyptians. We hid the mouse mover 3000 in a hole in the sand and covered it with palm leaves. Then we got to work. Thea snapped some photos. I took notes, and Benjamin and the professor took samples of sand and sealed them in a plastic bag. Trap lay lazily in the shadow of the Sphinx, napping. After an hour, we were all done. Where are we going to have breakfast? Trap asked, yawning loudly. Oh, I can't get moving without a nice cup of coffee in the morning. Suddenly, we heard a noise. We ran and hid behind the Great Pyramid of Giza. A long procession of soldiers carrying a golden litter with silky curtains came into view. Make way for the Grand Vizier, the noble Mouse-Katep, the soldiers shouted. The curtains parted, and I glimpsed a slying, shifty-eyed rat. He was wearing a white linen robe with a blue lapis lazuli necklace decorated with a large golden scarab beetle. He wore a black wig woven with silver threads and pearls, and his tail was decorated with rings made of precious stones. His servants placed the litter gently on the ground, and the rat climbed out of the ornate chair. The servant ran to him and placed a pair of golden sandals on his paws. Mouse-Katep nibbled daintily at a bunch of grapes. Meanwhile, Trap took a piece of garlic chewing gum and waved it in front of my nose. Want some? He whispered. Shh! I shushed him. You know I'm allergic to garlic. Achoo! I sneezed. The noble Mouse-Katep heard me. Scampering scarabs, he cried. Arrest those rodents. They are tomb thieves. Scribe, write this down. The soldiers surrounded us, poking us with their spears, while the scribe scribbled something on a piece of papyrus. The head guard forced us to march through the extreme hot desert for what seemed to be an eternity. Finally, we arrived at the royal palace in Memphis, not Tennessee. The guard poked me in the tail with his lance. Bow down before the pharaoh, he ordered me. At the very far end of the great hall, which was decorated in magnificent frescoes, I saw a golden throne. A tall, thin rodent with a hooked nose and hawk-like eyes sat on the throne. It was Ramesses II. Two tall mice stood on either side of the throne, fanning the pharaoh with an enormous ostrich feathers. The pharaoh wore a double crown, part red, part white, symbolizing the dominion over Upper and Lower Egypt. He proudly held a golden scepter in his paw. Queen Nefertiti was seated next to him. She was gorgeous. He looked at her proudly. You could tell he was very much in love with her. Next to the royal couple was their daughter. In her arms, she held a little bundle wrapped in a blanket embroidered in gold. It was the little baby Moses. We'll find out next Wednesday what happens. Thank you.